Can Sony stop being corporate morons for 5 minutes? For 5 minutes, that's literally all I ask. For 5 minutes, they stop being corporate dummies. But, no, unfortunately, that's not the case here. As much as I wish it was, it ain't. It sucks, but that's just the hard truth of it. The truth is that Sony sucks as a company. Every now and then they'll make something great, but most of the time they make bottom barrel dumpster fire trash. So, naturally, after seeing they actually had something good in Cobra Kai, they decided to do the stupidest thing they could possibly do. That being, filming both the final season of the show and another movie at the same time. And if that wasn't already egregious enough, they also decided to follow the Invincible strategy and release the entire season in parts, which not only resulted in the longest season of Cobra Kai at 15 episodes, which is way too long for a show like this, but it also managed to make the hype die down rather than go up. Because this is the textbook example of corporate greediness. Because after the high of Season 5, unfortunately this show's final season plummets. It's unfortunate, but that's just how it is. Now, does that mean it's a bad season? No. It is not bad, it is not a bad watch, and it's still perfectly bingeable. But what it is a textbook example of what happens when corporate decides to stop giving it the attention it deserves and saddle it with some of the worst writing that they could have come up with. And that, unfortunately, is what drags this down to being the weakest season of the entire show. And it sucks because the way it actually ends is amazing. But let's break it down step by step and go over why Sony's bonehead idiocy decided to screw over this show. So, welcome back to Mesa Station, welcome back to Kah-Rah-Tay, welcome to my review of Cobra Kai Season 6. Now, for context, I watched the entire season from start to finish in one go. But I understand people's frustration of having to wait between episodes in the same season, just for the sake of ratings for corporate. I hate that crap. I hated it with Invincible, and I hate it here. Because having it released so impartially not only makes you look like a greedy a-hole trying to gouge as much money as possible out of your IP, which is exactly what Sony is, but also the fact, it's so hard to explain. The fact that when you stop putting your all into something, it starts to drop. And unfortunately, that's what happened with Season 6 of Cobra Kai. Which, yeah, I mean, it sucks that we have to end on the weakest season, but I can tell you right now, it ends on the highest of highs. So, let's go over this bit by bit and see what happened, why corporate screwed it up so badly, and how thankfully it's looking to bite them in the ass. So, here's my complicated thoughts of Cobra Kai Season 6. I hope you enjoy. Here we go. Let's get the obvious out of the way first. This season got absolutely screwed by Sony's idiocy by filming another Karate Kid movie at the same time as this was being filmed, resulting in this following that aggravating Invincible strategy of splitting the release of the season into multiple parts to generate as much views and ratings and popularity talk on the internet as possible. That aspect seriously pisses me off, and only solidified without a doubt that Sony is absolutely awful at handling their own IPs. And from what I've been hearing about Karate Kid Legends so far, it's looking to thankfully bite them in the ass. I have heard nothing but bad things about Legends, and that's why I'm waiting a bit before I see it, because, I'm scared to death. Even without that context, though, Cobra Kai's final season is still the textbook definition of a mixed bag. as it retreads old ground to rehash the same beats and same tired melodrama that was already previously buried and concluded in the previous seasons, especially some from Season 5, resulting in some really, really bad writing. Like, if we were talking about just the first part of Cobra Kai, those first 5 episodes, it'd be like a 4 out of 10. Like, that's how rough this thing starts. However, thankfully parts 2 and 3 do pick it up a little. However, strangely enough, despite all of that corporate bullshit, it somehow ends on 3 of the best episodes in the entire series, and gives every single character, both old and new, a genuinely wonderful send-off that concludes the final storylines on a very satisfactory note. Especially Johnny, as his journey comes full circle, and he finally ends his rivalry with Daniel LaRusso for good, and becomes a family man, picking his life back up to be a good dad for his newborn baby, and of course for his son, his disciple, and his girlfriend, Carmen. Actually becoming friends with Daniel. So, it may be the weakest season of the show, and I am so very angry at Sony for screwing it over out of their own corporate greed. But I'm still going to call this a good season, due to its great action, compelling character development, and spectacular conclusion. It's sadly not great, and definitely the weakest season out of all 6, but it is far from bad, and I don't blame the show for it. I blame Sony for it. They decided to just stop being corporate dummies for 5 minutes, and decided to just put all into just this final season of Cobra Kai, rather than filming this and a movie at the same time. It probably would have been a lot better. But as it is, they screwed the pooch and have single-handedly put this franchise back in that mediocre tier it was, starting at Karate Kid 3. Huge freaking shame, because Cobra Kai is truly something special. It not only made the Karate Kid movies better, even 3 to an extent, but it also brought all these characters back in a very clever way, gave a whole new perspective on a classic rivalry, and it gave some more context to the movies and how it continues to impact the legacy going forward. You know, all those things that Legends should have done, but apparently it's not doing according to reviews, so. Look, I love Cobra Kai. I am so glad I finally got to sit down and watch this show, because I finally see what everyone was talking about, especially in the highest of highs of seasons 2 and 5. This show is great. But because of Sony's own corporate bonehead moranicity, this season got screwed over royally, in both production and writing. And that is a huge shame, because, again, it ends on the final 3 episodes, the best episodes of the entire show. Because everyone gets a satisfying conclusion in one way or another. But, because of Sony, it can't rise above just being good. And even then, that's being generous, because like I said, part 1 of Season 6 was genuinely really mediocre and hard to watch. But Part 2 picked up the slack, and then Part 3 ended it on a high note, so I guess there's that. Oh, and bringing back Kreese for pretty much no reason. Yeah, I hate that they did that. I hated it when they faked his death again in the ending of Season 5, and I hated him coming back here, because until one scene with Silver, he does absolutely nothing. And he could have been left out, and it wouldn't have changed a thing, because this saga's whole thing is a rivalry with the Iron Dragons, not Cobra Kai. So it just feels stupid to throw him back in there for no reason. Overall, though, I still love this show, and I'm still going to give this final season, despite its huge flaws, a final verdict of a 7 out of 10. It's still solid, it's still good, and it is still a really good conclusion to the story. But because Sony rushing its production, rushing the movie's production, filming both at the same time, and giving this one some of the worst writing in the entire franchise, yeah, I cannot call it great, because it just has too many problems. And it's a shame, but it is what it is. This season is still really good, but just temper your expectations accordingly. This is the weakest season of Cobra Kai. If you're wondering how all the seasons stack up, it would look something like this. With 6 on the bottom and 5 on the top, which is weird considering how both seasons follow after each other, and one is drastically better than the other. Really goes to show you what happens when you actually put your eggs in one basket instead of splitting the load. And, well, that's it for Kah-Rah-Tay May until I suffer through Legends. Lord, pray for my sanity. Until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching all these Cobra Kai reviews. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts and opinions on today's review and what we reviewed in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on Cobra Kai. Let me know your ranking of the seasons of Cobra Kai. And if you think that my reviews did them justice, despite mostly being spoiler-free. So, until next time, and until the absolute disaster, more than likely, that is Karate Kid Legends, I'll see you in the next review.
Excited for what comes up ahead. Hey, shall we ride?